evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. I'd like to open the meeting at 7:30. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Mr. Fitzer? Mr. Colbert?
Here.
Mr. Kucera?
Here.
Mr. Nushai? Ms. Redmond?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Solomon?
Here.
Mr. Tinley?
Here.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any problems with tonight's agenda as it stands? Seeing none, I will approve it the way it is, and we'll go on to agenda item number 5, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes from July 9th, 2024. That'd be our last meeting.
I will, July 29th, you said? I thought it was the 9th. Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes from Tuesday, July 9th, 2024.
Support.
Any comments? Seeing none, may I have roll call, please?
Mr. Colbert?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Ms. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes.
Mr. Tinley?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is public discussion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to discuss any items that are not on the agenda tonight? Seeing no rush to the microphone, I will then close public discussion, and we will go on to agenda item number 7, which is a site plan amendment application for 220 South Main Street. I believe Mr. Tangeri can walk us through this.
Yes, I'll give you a little accounting of the request. So a few of you were on the Planning Commission in 2022 when a plan was approved to utilize a portable outdoor grill / smoker as part of the day-to-day operation at 220 South Main, which is House of Barbecue. You can see on the map on the first page of the letter, the dotted circle, or oval, I guess, is where the grill is currently operated. The solid circle is where the applicant is requesting to move it. So currently, they use a portable outdoor smoker as part of the operations of the restaurant. When that was approved in 2022, it was approved to be located near the rear of the site and operated overnight from Sunday into Monday and then Thursday into Friday. And then it was going to be used off-site at other times. They're now opposing to amend that site plan to remove the limits on when the smoker can operate on the site and move the smoker closer to the front of the site, away from neighboring residential properties close to North Main, and closer to North Main, rather. They're not proposing any physical changes to the site. They're proposing a change to the location and operating profile of the smoker. So we don't have an engineered site plan that we're looking at. We're really looking at, here's where it goes. So if you feel like there's any more information you need, that's something that is obviously within your purview to ask for. So you're going to be reviewing the use of the grill as part of the operations of the restaurant, with use available on all the days of the week rather than the currently permitted days of the week. And then the new location is the other thing you're going to be looking at. The protection and separation measures that they're using right now, there's a photo of them in there, would move with the smoker. So a little bit about the site. It's 0.8 acres, located on the west side of Maine. It's north of Tacoma, and then downtown Charlie's is to the south, and then the little ice cream place is to the north. And the parking lot to the south and the building to the south are owned by a common property owner. This building and that building are owned by a common property owner, and the applicant's the current tenant, and that property owner has allowed the use of that parking lot for this purpose. We have CMD zoning around the site except to the west where it's R2 single family. So I'll let the applicant talk a little bit more about how the operation works, but cooking generally takes place overnight. We have, in the CMD district, you don't really have side or front setbacks, but we do have a 30-foot setback from residentially zoned properties. The current location of the smoker is 8 feet from the nearest property line, and this obviously would move it quite a bit further than that. There's a detached garage on the other side of that wall. The grill has to be moved so that the dumpster can be accessed right now as well, and that would obviously not be the case anymore. They are proposing to occupy a parking space with the grill. We had discussed some alternative locations with them. That's primarily Nick discussed that with them, but I was part of some of those conversations as well. This is the location that they landed on for their request. Doesn't add to their parking requirement, but like I said, it uses one space. It's located in such a way that it wouldn't interfere with vehicular circulation in the parking lot. The position of the grill up front is near the outdoor dining patio that's in front of the restaurant, and there is a small landscaped area between it and the sidewalk, but the distance from the sidewalk is not huge. It's 5 to 10 feet. And they're still going to be storing the wood in the same place on the site. And again, if you feel like you need any additional detail, that's something that you can feel free to ask for. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but I may have to defer to the applicant on some of the operational things.
The only question I would have is, this is a site plan amendment application. This doesn't cost as much as a regular site plan, right? I would have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's only one at this point. I think the administration's actually working on having a two-tiered system.
Two-tiered, yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we've gotten weigh-in at all from the fire department on just, overall safety.
Yeah, the fire marshal has been involved in these discussions. Nick, I don't know if you have any thing in particular from him that needs to be relayed? Or
Not really anything major. We've had discussions with Fire Marshal. He's reviewed it and doesn't have any concerns with the location as long as the smoker has all the proper, items in place to make sure that it's burning properly, which does get also inspected by Oakland County. So nothing specific related to the relocation of this.
And maybe this is for the applicant, but is it still being monitored? If it were to change to 7 days a week, there's someone there monitoring it overnight?
that's a question
Okay.
I'll have to answer, yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, okay.
Myself.
Okay.
Any further questions for Joe, or any questions for the applicant? Could you come to the microphone, please? Do you have any?
Yeah, but I just want to give other people opportunity, if other people have.
I was just going to ask a question. In the notes here, I believe it's the letter from Giffords Webster. It talks about taller chimney stacks. Is that something that you're intending on doing? It seems like it would make sense to me to have a taller chimney stack to keep the smoke from whatever direction the wind is blowing from,
that was part of why we were moving it forward, so we didn't have to go ahead with that, because something like that would have to be designed, and I don't see that really happening with the build out of the actual chimney stacks that are on there. So therefore, by giving it that room farther away, it gives the smoke time to dissipate and get up higher. That way it's not going directly into people's homes. Because right now, as is, when I light the fire, that's the initial cause of the most smoke. Once that dies down after an hour of smoking, it then is very low. So what that does, it allows the smoke enough time to lift up and spread out more instead of just large hoops of smoke going into residents' homes. So that's the purpose of the move.
So, are you there, just curious, how long does it stay hot? Do you know about how long that grill were to stay hot after you're done with your cooking? Would it happen, what hours are you looking at?
Normally, I start either in the morning or at night. So the longest smoke that I do is 24 hours, which is on the brisket. The shortest being 4 hours, but there's no way for me to determine exactly how long the wood stays hot in there. That's why sometimes you got complaints about the smoke going over, even though nothing was on the grill. I can't put it out. Once I put water on there, it's going to really go up. You know,
Yeah.
and that's not even feasible, so.
So my only concern to it staying hot essentially 24 hours a day would be, obviously, there's family that, it's close to a sidewalk. And there's a lot of, pedestrian traffic, right?
That's why we have the gates there to protect. That's an extra layer of protection to stop people from accidentally bumping the grill or just children reaching over, touching it. Keep the barrier at least 2 to 3 feet away from the grill, which, gives it enough where no one would ever be scalded or burned by any.
Is there signage up there as well, or is that
No,
something
it's just
you've
a
considered?
yellow. I can get signage. That's no problem, but.
I was just curious if there was
It's a yellow fence that's highly marked with kind of cautionary, but
I would
yeah.
think that if it's going to be closer to pedestrian traffic, it would be helpful to have some type of signage on there saying like caution hot or something,
duly
especially.
noted.
Okay.
I would duly
Yeah.
noted,
And I'm glad you guys are successful there, so, yeah.
Yeah, business has picked up 3 times the amount, and we just didn't anticipate it to pick up like this, especially without even having a liquor license yet, so.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yet,
we've
I heard.
been notarized several times. We've won so many awards. We best of the best in our Detroit magazine, along with 3 other places in Clawson. So we're bringing a lot to Clawson, so, and
Yeah.
we're just doing up, so.
That's always great to hear, and it
And
sounds like,
I'm now a resident as well. So,
oh,
yeah.
yay,
Welcome to Clawson.
yes,
Thank you, thank you,
again.
thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I've only heard great things, and
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad everything's successful. I did read that the neighbor did seem to be a little bit bothered.
Yes.
I would understand that. It smells good to us, but to live daily, right?
Right.
So those were my only questions. Thanks.
I stopped by and looked at it this afternoon because my main concern is out there, people touching it, but he has a expanding gate, like you see at Home Depot where they close off the aisleways. And that can be put up there, so no kids are going to be touching this thing. That was the only major concern that I had with it. And we haven't had any problems in the past, so I'm good with it. If anybody else has any more comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. You said that you do have some 24-hour smokes.
Yes.
Because I know, like, originally it was overnight, it looked like mostly that the
Yes.
grill was running. So you do anticipate this being,
Yes.
at times,
Yeah, at
going out throughout the
times,
day.
not to be abused, just
Yeah.
when needed. I can't control, like, when crowds come in and they buy me out, so I just need that time to where if I need to smoke, I need to. Instead of loading the smoker up and over smoking, I can just run with one and, smoke. Actually, it's going to be smoking less because if I can do it daily instead of all at once, I will only have one smaller smoker going instead of the large one. So,
Okay, that was going to be my
Yeah.
other question. If this operation is keeping you afloat and you anticipate it's going to be enough for you in the future,
Yes.
or you said you increase business a lot, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. I didn't know if you had any plans to change this design or, if you need additional smokers in the future. You feel
Right
confident that
now-
this was good right now?
Yes. Moving forward in the future if we need to, but we will go over a new plan and figure it out. But for now, I believe this should be sufficient.
Thank you.
So the gate in the picture, the brown gate, that's not what you're
No,
using now?
I have
Okay.
some metal, more sturdy and more firm gates that are much better than that plastic, so.
It's lockable and everything?
Yes.
And the 24-hour smokes would be monitored still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas if I have to, I will take them home, take the grill home, so, yeah. But I'm always there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further questions, comments?
No, I think you guys have shown to do well and to monitor responsibly. So we like you here. I'll make a
Thank you.
motion
Need a motion then?
to approve the amended site plan for 220 South Main.
Second.
And motion support.
I have one more question, sorry. And because I wasn't involved in the original site plan. They're taking away one spot by putting the smoker there. Are we still good on parking requirements? Did we talk about that? I just wanted to make sure that I had that information before voting.
Oh.
Where it's sitting now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, just with most uses in the downtown, with the public parking being there, typically when the site plan comes in for a commercial use like this, they'll ask the planning commission to waive some of those requirements
Is
as
that what
well.
happened originally?
I would have to defer, I'm not 100% sure, but they do have parking
I know
throughout
there's
the back.
parking around
Yeah,
the area,
yeah.
obviously, but I just was curious.
They'll be able to claw it back in the space behind where the portion of the grill is now.
Do we need to, we don't have public comment or anything for this before we
No,
vote?
not in this. No. If there's no further comments, I'll take a roll call on it.
And just,
Public comment?
Oh, do you?
That's what
I can open it for public. Sure, I'll open it for public comment right now then.
okay, and then just real quick before you open up for public comment, Mr. Scott, you've seconded that motion, correct? Okay, and then in the motion, I think it'd be appropriate to state that the planning commission accepts the proposed location and then the time frame modification as they prepared, just to state it clearly in the motion.
Okay,
Just
well-
for the record.
We
Thank
can-
you.
we can
Whenever you get to
stipulate
that point.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, then I'll open it for public if you have any comments.
Good evening. My name is Shawnee Kunith, and my husband and I live on West Tacoma. Both he and I bought our starter homes in Clawson independently in 1998, and we've lived here ever since. So 28 years later, we've lived here. I think that's important for you all to know. I had a phone call with Police Chief Baus last week, and she encouraged me to come and speak with you tonight. I finally went to the city to complain about the pervasive smoke from the House of Barbecue restaurant on Main Street in April of this year, after many, many months of not wanting to complain. I, too, am a business owner. I know how it goes, and I was trying not to be a pest, to be honest with you. Since the restaurant has opened, my neighbors and I have been overwhelmed with the amount of smoke that comes from the smoker. And when I say overwhelmed, I have had to place 3M film over all of my windows. And I cannot open my windows in the spring, summer, or fall due to the frequency and the overwhelming amount of smoke that is there all day. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned to you is that I was told, I believe by Nick, that this site plan was supposed to be for Wednesdays and Sundays. That was never followed. This has already been a 5, 6, or 7 day operation. It has never been a 2-day operation. And even since I have made my complaints in April, it has not really slowed him down all that much. And if that isn't a slap in the face to you guys, it is to me, or at least I take it that way. I had been calling the owner directly at times when it was overwhelmingly in the house, and on those times he did turn it down. It seemed like it was working well until the last time that I called him on Tuesday, April 16th, when I did take the 3M off my windows, cracked the window, and I had so much smoke in my house that my main floor smoke detector went off. Now, I've killed a lot of things in my oven. In 26 years, I've never had the smoke detector go off before. That is how much smoke is inside my house, not standing outside in it. And if that doesn't alarm you, I don't know what would. I called again on the 17th. Excuse me, I did not call him on the 16th. I called the business on the 17th because, again, there was so much smoke in my home that I literally felt like I was at my wit's end. I'm literally losing it. And I spoke to a male. He did not give me his name, telling me that that he needed to turn down the smoker. He then began telling me with a raised voice about how he had previously moved the smoker and got a fine, and it was my neighbor's fault because my neighbor had called the police on him, and he was very angry. The man that I was talking to was extremely adversarial to me, which I did not appreciate since I had been going directly towards him and not to the police. And that was the last day that I called, and I came up here and filed a report with Barbara Chambers. I also want to say that after sending Nicholas and everyone else's that I could find their email, the fire marshal did actually say that he couldn't believe that there hadn't been issues with it sooner. And you got that email too. So the fire marshal has been aware of this, and he couldn't believe that there haven't been more complaints because of the smoke. And everybody got that was on my email. I don't know. I sent it to everybody that I could. It's quite ironic that there are laws in place so that no one can smoke a cigarette or pipe smoke in a restaurant, but they can blow smoke at my house for 48 plus hours, and now they want to expand it to 7 days a week? Seriously? This is a fire issue. It's a fire hazard. This is a health issue. I've been a registered nurse for 20 years in and around in our area. I've been taking care of people. This is a health hazard to people in Clawson. You know, wood burning smoke is secondhand smoke, people. I can't smoke a cigarette at the restaurant, but he can blow smoke at my house. It's unacceptable. Absolutely 100% unacceptable. You know, ever since I made the complaint in April, this restaurant owner has turned on the smoker seemingly whenever he wants to. Most recently, it started on Friday nights. Now, mind you, he's supposed to be doing this 2 days a week. And on Fridays, when Troy Dispatch does not dispatch, he's been turning it on Friday. Over the July 4th, July 5th weekend, he turned it on Friday, and it never went off until Monday. Did you guys enjoy time outside on the holiday weekend? Because I didn't, and neither did my neighbors. I can only tell you that expanding this is, you know, if I have to move, I guess I'll move. Do I want to? No. Can I? Yes. Can other people? Can my neighbors? No. So I implore you, you know, I sent pictures to Nicholas. This is before they put up the gates, and this is why they put up the gates, because there is absolute fire coming out of every different part of this. It's unacceptable. Kids walk through there on their way to and from school and to and from the ice cream place. So I am glad that there's a fence there now, but there wasn't.
Can we see that photo?
Absolutely.
Is it?
Do you want me to bring it to you?
Could you?
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I have videos, which I've sent to Nicholas, of real-time issues. You know, I can't have a bonfire in my own backyard, unmonitored. This is crazy. I can only tell you what a health hazard this is. You know, these are issues for anyone, you know, with asthma or COPD. It's secondhand smoke.
Can we suspend so I can ask some questions? Is that okay? For clarity here.
Want to ask the
Yeah,
resident questions?
I am curious. I know that's not,
If you'd be willing to
I'm
take
sorry?
question and answer here.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering if I can ask a few clarifying questions. Are you the home that's directly behind the restaurant? Are you the home that's directly behind it?
No, I'm 3 doors down.
3 doors? Okay.
Yeah, and the smoke comes directly at my house, and he has moved it to the front before. It's smoke. It's still coming in the same direction.
So your feeling is that moving it, because it sounds like he's coming here in good faith, trying to accommodate in,
He's
How?
already moved it, and it's smoke.
okay.
There's no wall. There's nothing else blowing it in a different direction.
Okay.
The first house doesn't have a garage. The smoke comes directly into all of our yards.
So you're 3 homes into Tacoma?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
There are now 2 smokers on the property, and I couldn't hear very well. I'm partially deaf, I'm sorry. But, there's 2 smokers on the property now. My idea was to raise the stack. That was just an idea that my neighbor had. And that was the only thing that we really could come up with to try to help, or move it off-site completely. But, this is affecting people's health. I should be able to keep my windows open in my own home. This is not right. And I ask for your help.
Have your neighbors reached out to the city?
What's that?
Have your neighbors reached out to the city as
Yes,
well?
everybody has. And we were under the impression that we were supposed to be calling the non-emergency number when it was off-site. I don't know that that's what Chief Baus had actually wanted. But we have been calling when he turns it on Fridays, which I'd like to make sure that you know that he's not supposed to be smoking on Fridays. But it's still on off days. So when we call the non-emergency, we get Troy Dispatch. There have been multiple calls, and that's why I talked to Chief Baus, because they were not sending a car like Clausen normally will send pretty much, a car for anything. Troy didn't do that, and they just kept saying, we don't know anything about it. And so they did not dispatch on the Fridays. So this has not been in one incident. This has been constant. And when you sign something, when you sign a site plan saying that you're only going to do this for 2 days, and then you do it for 5, 6, and 7, that's a problem. That's a problem. It's a problem for me, and it's a big problem for you guys, too. And I'm telling you, it's already been on more than 2 days a week.
And you mentioned you had a comment from Troy. He's our fire marshal. Was that a verbal comment, or did you
That was
actually
Clausen, sir. John.
Did you get an email from him? Is there anything in writing?
I got an email back when I sent out my first email, sending up a flare, if you will, asking for some assistance. I don't have it with me. Nicholas was on the email, so he would also have a copy of that. So does Chief Baus. Everybody that I could find was on there. And his comment, I'm ad-libbing here, but I can't believe this, somebody hasn't had a problem earlier. I can't believe the neighbors haven't complained earlier. That's from your fire marshal.
All right, thank you. And my next question would be to Nicholas. Why was that not in our packet?
So the comment that was, that email back in the original correspondence from April was in response to the current location of the smoker where it was intended to be in the site plan, which is between the two buildings. And so when that was approved back in 2022, I believe that's where his comment was stemming from, is that he was surprised that it took that long for there to be an issue, because when the smoker's between the two buildings, it creates a wind tunnel. And so when we got this complaint from, sorry, I don't have your name. Shawnee. Okay. From Shawnee, I have gotten one other complaint from a resident. I've, in conversations with both of them, it sounds like they've kind of become the spokespersons for the neighbors in the area on this, is that since April, we've been working with Collier to try and identify how we can allow the residents to not have their quality of life affected, but also allow him to operate a successful business. And so Collier's been working with me to temporarily move it up front to see if that changes anything. And I think that did help a little bit, having it farther out from the road in between the buildings. And so that's why he's here today. He wants to, try and get it away from the residents to stop that nuisance from them.
And I think it makes sense moving it. It's going to disperse some of the fumes or the smoke that you're getting. I'm just disappointed that we weren't informed that the fire chief had a problem with it.
And that we didn't get the full context
And
of
we're never
the
really aware,
situation.
unless residents email us directly on planning, we don't see a lot of the stuff. Had you not shown up here tonight, we wouldn't even know there's a problem.
Yep.
I
So,
talked with Barbara, and Nicholas was not there at the time that day. She let me know, and I got responses back from Police Chief Bao. I got a response back from John, I'm sorry, I don't remember what his last name was. I believe it started with an S, saying that he couldn't believe that this wasn't a problem. I mean, I've gotten calls from Police Chief Bao. I mean, she's the one who said you need to go tonight and tell them what's going on. So I didn't know of another process of how I was supposed to do this. But, this it's pervasive. It's smoke. It's pervasive, and it's in my house, and it's in my neighbor's house. And I can only speak for me, but this is just not healthy.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
I have a motion, I have support. Do you want to continue on with that motion, or do you want to make some changes?
Well, I feel like we need some time to, me personally, that was not made aware to us, as you all know. I have a hard time believing that 3 homes in is really going to see much of a difference.
Could maybe just modify the motion and table this until we get an accurate picture from the fire marshal, also the information from ordinance on violations outside the original time frame, so we can have a bigger picture, because that was one of my big concerns, is impacts the residents.
Yeah, and that was
Can we
our.
table this for now, and for a week or so to get that information?
I guess, can we form some actual feedback that we want? And those are good starts. I also would like to know, like, has the resident seen an improvement? She said she didn't see an improvement with the smoke, so we need some actual resolutions. I'm sure that the resident wants you guys to be successful. We all want you to be successful, but I just don't know if this is the total solution. I guess we weren't part of the conversations Nick had.
I think moving it from where it's at closer to Main Street is going to disperse some of the smoke. It's going to solve some of the problem. Whether it solves all of it or not, I don't know.
She's
So-
3 homes in, and that's
Yeah.
about, 30 feet away? I don't see that as,
But where it's at right now, it's surrounded with buildings, and smoke lingers because of that.
It's got to be better than nothing as of right
Yeah.
now, and we can't ask the business to stop operating
I don't
in
know,
the interim.
can we demand putting chimney and 15-foot chimney
right,
stack on
that
it?
would be the other option. I mean, and is that a viable option and something that would actually make a difference? And will the restaurant next to them be affected with that type of smoke if it is up next to that building? When this first came in front of us, we were concerned about the residents behind and the smoke. So I guess we need some more information on the exhaust. So I would, yes, amend my motion. Hopefully Nick and Joe have detailed notes to table this until we have some further detailed information.
I mean, can we just approve the movement of the smoker for now?
That's where I was going to go. We don't have the
I think
privilege.
I think a bigger discussion too is the hours of operation that he's actually smoking. I mean. he's
We don't have the
here
privilege
to-
of temporary certificates anymore, but if we did, I would say that let's give them 30 days temporary at the new location, see how that plays out, see if that makes the change that is
Can we do
necessary
a
or not.
conditional approval for 30 days? And that way the residents know that will be.
I'd say let's try it. Let's try the move. Let's see if it accommodates things. And if that doesn't, then we're going to find another alternative.
If I could ask you, are there, I mean, do you have any other solutions? Like, you know, I know you mentioned that adding a smokestack, you know, may not be beneficial, but, I mean, are you open to trying anything
I'm
or
definitely open
recommending?
to try anything.
Okay.
You know, we've been playing around and talking to people about different ways of doing things, and it's just the way that these certain grills are made. Adding a smokestack, because two of the chimneys are side by side, the size of what we will have to put on there, it has to be heat viable, you know, so I have to play around with that, you know, and that would take time. And we all know how the hiring situation is going right now.
Yeah.
I just haven't had time to really play around with that, you know.
Yeah.
Once I get time freed up, I will. But for now, I'm just trying to, you know, help out and see if this works at all, you know. I believe it will help out, you know, and as he said prior to, you can see in the email where she said it did help out. I understand she's frustrated and upset about what's been going on, but, you know, even what she said about 4th of July weekend, I do festivals, I do other events, I cater. So when I light the grill on site, it leaves, you know. When I bring it back, yes, it's still smoking, but it's not smoke like when I first started. That's the thing. And the picture you see is when it's first started. That's the fire, how it gets started, and it's paper burning. So when the paper burns and burns out and the wood all catches, the doors close, and then the gate is placed there. So that was the whole situation of what you're looking at.
I understand, but it's
Yeah.
it's still happening.
Yes,
you know?
definitely,
I
definitely.
mean, even if there was, you know, if you can do some research and
Yes.
maybe there's some equipment such as a scrubber, you know, that
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not, you know.
Yeah, I would definitely look into it and try different things. If this doesn't work, I will move forward with something else different.
Okay.
All right.
And I think we're going to try to work with you. If
Thank
you want to make a motion, my preference would be to give him 30 days at the new location and see how that works out, but then have to come back at that point to review this thing before we get full approval on it.
Andy and I were just huddling on that, and I think it would still be a motion to postpone because you want things to come back with information and stuff. So I think you'd do a motion to postpone, and then as part of that motion, your recommendation would be to test the new location during the postponement period, see what the results of that are, and then that those results be provided to you so that
We
you can
can't
make
give him
a.
just temporary use of it, of the new spot?
Well, when it returns to you, then you're making.
That's right, we don't have the right to do temporaries. It's only
But then when it
administration.
returns to you, then you have that's the point at which you can say, okay, this doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be working, or this does seem to be working, so we're going
Okay,
to
so-
act accordingly. So it is sort of similar to a temporary, but it's
Otherwise,
just
isn't-
done via a motion of postponement, and you're requesting specific information at the end of the postponement
I
period.
see your point, but if we postpone now, business is going on as usual. He's going to be cooking in the same spot.
Well, you said
Till he comes back.
postpone with the temporary approval of.
Yeah, I think we kind of need to include in that postponement motion a sort of, I guess, it is sort of almost a temporary approval of moving it so that we can see what the effect of moving it is and whether or not that satisfies your concerns.
That would be my preference. You wanna-
We should probably talk also about, you know, operating in the confines in which he's been approved for. It sounds like you're not exactly following,
Well, he is asking for a
timeframes.
7-day now.
but he's currently,
The prior
Yeah.
agreement was that I still cook off-site, so I was operating properly. It's just when it comes back, it's still lit. You know, there's no way I can't put it out while driving, or, you know, there's no other way to do that, you know. That was not part of the plan, it wasn't included in the plan, it was not yay or nay on that part, but everyone knew that I was gonna be cooking off-site with the grill as well, which is me lighting the grill, taking the grill off-site to, like, I was to cater for your home. I have to bring the food, put it on the grill, I can't just have raw food sitting there without no heat. If I'm traveling to Grosse Pointe or something, it has to have heat underneath it, or cool, that's the only way to do it.
so the smoker's in operation, but you're not actually cooking food with it.
Correct. Meaning,
You have to,
I would,
like,
I wake up in the morning, I light the smoker, I place food on the smoker, I leave with the smoker off-site. Smoker was not there for 4th of July weekend. I was at Royal Oak winning an award with the grills. There was no way that the grills were there smoking. Yes, it started out, it got lit there, but that's me catering an event. I'm doing an off-site thing with thousands of kids and people all around. I do this every year for Arts, Beats and Eats, Taco Fest, every barbecue competition you can just about think of. So to sit here and say that I was smoking, it was staying there. There's no way, because I was physically, and me and the grill were not on premises for the whole 4th of July weekend.
Thank you.
So are we gonna give?
You'd like to make a comment? Can you come to the mic, please?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I can attest as part of House of Barbecue that we were not, in fact, at the restaurant during 4th of July weekend, and it is used only to cook on Wednesdays and Sundays, to the point where we run out of food and chef is unable to sell certain dishes, and we're unable to sell our highest ticket dishes like the beef brisket and the beef ribs that everybody loves, because we're unable to cook them until Sunday or Saturday or Wednesday. And the times that photo, I can attest, because we have like a child that's around the grill all the time. I'm like a helicopter mom. That incident of the flaming of the fire is like, I mean, that's a good shot, because it happens for like probably 30 seconds.
There's a
And then
startup,
it's,
yeah.
and then it's shot. And I am confident that from seeing the smoke and being around it,
Just show you this.
that it will dissipate, him being able to smoke.
4th of July weekend. I was not in the closet. That's the grill right there. I was not in the closet.
Yep.
That's the award I won right there.
I'm confident that with House of Barbecue being able to space the time out with the smoking, because I think that's part of, and I understand the complaint, and I think that's part of the initial complaint, is that firing the grill 2 days a week is really forcing him. I mean, there are slabs of ribs. I do all the social media for Facebook. You can see it. There's huge slabs of ribs on. There's, countless number of chickens, and that would really be that's a lot of smoke during 2 days and 24 hours that he has to use it. So being able to dissipate that, but I will also tell you that the growing restaurant and moving into the city and planting roots here, it will not be able to sustain itself with the amount. This is a one-man chef operation. It's hard to find help now. This restaurant will not be able to sustain itself with the current cooking conditions, especially during Arts, Beats and Eats, which is coming up or leading up towards it, where the restaurant will be running for the first year along with Arts, Beats and Eats, which is a huge thing right at 6th and Washington. It's on the news all the time. So we appreciate and hope that we can all come to an agreement, because it's understanding. We want you to, and your family and the residents, to love House of Barbecue and come. It's not something we want to impact your health. I was raised in medical, and we're going to make sure we come to a conclusion that everybody's happy with. But you have to understand, the House of Barbecue is a traditional Texas barbecue restaurant, and that it's unable, we do not use indoor smokers that a lot of restaurants and barbecue restaurants use, that you're familiar with the huge ventilation system indoors. You can't get the flavor that's award-winning with that. So, and frankly, cooking off-site it's impossible. There'll be no one at the restaurant. So I hope that we can come to a conclusion where we're able to, starting now, work all together as a community and as residents, so that we can all come to an agreement. Okay,
Thank you.
So I was under the impression that the site plan was just for the Wednesdays and Sundays. That's what I was told, at least.
Yeah, I believe that's what the initial plan was.
And so that's not festivals. That's not starting it up on a Friday and having it smoke for hours and hours and then taking it somewhere else,
It's
right? It's not the same thing. If it's just Wednesdays and Sundays, that's what I'm expecting, because that's what I was told. Not that it's going to get fired up on a Friday because it's convenient or he's doing something else. If the site plan is going to say that, and you're going to put all these little avenues, then that's what it should be. When I was told Wednesdays and Sundays, that's what we went with. So when it does get fired up on a Friday, that seems to be a problem. And that's why we're all very angry about this, because it has not been just on Wednesdays or Sundays at all, ever, that I can remember.
If our notes are correct, I believe originally it was supposed to be Sunday into Monday and Thursday into Friday. That's the language that I see here.
Okay. Nicholas, when he sent it back to me, said Wednesdays and Sundays, so that was different from information that I had gotten.
Excuse me. So the motion from 2022, and this was approved, states the following: site plan review for 220 South Main Street, House of Barbecue be approved with the conditions that there are markings for the location of the grill, the materials to cover the grill meet fire code requirements, the grill is located 10 feet from other buildings and structures, and that the portable outdoor smoker is delivered and used on Wednesdays and Sundays with the removal directly after use.
So maybe there needs to be some clarification, and maybe that would stamp out some of this, confusion. Because we're being told one thing, he's saying a completely different thing. You would think that this would be why are we having this conversation right now? Can you imagine where the confusion might come from?
So the smoke is all the time, it's constant with you, or is it just when it's being lit?
When the smoker is there and there is like a plume when you saw where it was lit, it's really, really, really bad. And that's generally in the afternoons. I think he said mornings. I would say mornings, afternoons. It just kind of depends. He has, over the course of the last few months, he has started it up on Fridays. Now, maybe that is for his festivals, but shouldn't that be in the site plan then?
So it is just when it's being lit?
No, I mean, it's smoke. It's when the smoker is there and it's
Okay.
on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I would assume you want to amend your motion. You want to withdraw the other one first?
I will make a motion to withdraw my prior motion.
Okay.
Second.
You second, so that's.
Do you need us to vote on that?
You just withdraw?
Yeah,
Okay.
Just withdraw.
Okay.
That doesn't require a vote. You withdraw, now you have to make another one.
Now we start over again.
All right, so I will make a motion to postpone our site plan approval of 222 South Main and allow a temporary approval of the moving of the grill.
Would you like me to suggest some?
Sure, I try to take notes when you.
So I think maybe the best way to do it is to frame it in terms of the information you'd like to receive.
Sure.
To aid you in your final response. So a postponement of the final decision in order to receive information on the following. And one of those things would be the effect on neighboring properties of moving the grill to the front of the property. So there we go. We've relocated the grill.
Right.
The other information that we were looking for from the fire
Fire
marshal and
Smokestack information.
yeah, exactly, like
Smokestack.
smokestack or scrubber technology, that kind of thing. So you're going to list out the information that you're looking to receive, and then I guess we were looking for the complaint history as well, if I
Yeah,
recall correctly.
and then, Joe,
So-
would you recommend that, I thought you mentioned giving them a temporary approval for the moving of the grill, or do I need to specify
I
that?
think the requesting information on the effect of moving it
Will allow that?
allows
Okay.
the temporary
Tell us unless they try it.
relocation. And then we temporarily relocate it, and that allows us to assess what the effect of that is. And then we give you that information.
Would that include the hours of operation expanding?
I think it probably has to.
To get a fair sense of what
Yeah.
the impact on the neighbors would be? Okay.
Another recommendation, I know you said 30 days. The planning commission meeting that would be most in line with that would be August 27th. I don't know if you want to add that to your motion
27th, sure.
to want to be reviewed next.
Are we meet on the 27th?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
fourth Tuesday of the month.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yes, it is the 27th.
Thank you.
Okay, so your
All
motion,
right.
your motion's
We'll
made.
start over. Feel free to amend my motion if
Your
there's.
motion's made. I assume Nick has all the details of it.
Well, you want me to speak it aloud? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I will make a motion to postpone our site plan of 220 South Main until August 27th, pending more information in regards to complaint history, the effect of moving the grill on neighbors, fire marshal opinion and information, and further details on solutions such as smokestack and other technologies to improve
Re-engineering.
re-engineering, sure.
And you want to throw hours in? You want to look at the hours again, or?
Joe said that was already included with the moving, the effect of moving.
Okay. You have a motion, do I have support?
Yes. Second.
I have second. Does anyone else want to comment on anything? If not, I'll take roll call, please.
Mr. Cusero,
Yes.
Ms. Redmond,
Yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon, Mr. Tinlin,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Colbert.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope we can work something out here.
thanks.
Moving on, we do agenda item number 8 is discussion and presentation of the downtown master plan. And I see.
I do have a little presentation here, but I'm not in the meeting. I have. Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry, just a little delay.
It's nice to see our cameras are working tonight, yeah. You can actually see who's at the podium at home.
All right, it's entering. Sorry, the Zoom link was just different from what it usually is tonight, so. All right. And I need to mute myself. Okay. So, by way of introduction, right a little bit before the city started on the update of its master plan, the DDA started working on an update to its master plan. So they've been kind of going in tandem. We've actually talked about a lot of the concepts that are going to be presented tonight here at the Planning Commission back in the fall. But the DDA has at this point developed a draft of its master plan update and has approved that draft for Planning Commission review. So that is what we're here for tonight. We're going to have some discussion on the draft that the DDA has come up with. And we'll go through the presentation. As soon as it gets into presentation mode. There it is.
None of this is in print form yet?
Did you receive a file? I don't know if you received a file or a printed
Yes.
version of the.
It was attached.
File, but, yeah.
Okay. If you would like a printed version, that can be provided to you. So this plan is an update to the 2015 downtown master plan, which laid the groundwork for current downtown zoning. It largely carries forward the vision and goals of that plan, but it builds on them in a couple of key ways. So when we look at, and these are things we've discussed already, but I'll go through them again. So the population of the city is down a bit. It's getting a little bit older, and household size is declining a bit as part of a long-term trend. The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, hurt downtowns in the meantime. Businesses closed, office demand plummeted, and our national housing shortage was exacerbated by that period as well, which, of course, that continues to affect our region. So in the meantime, the city adopted its 2018 master plan. It's in progress on a 2024 master plan update. We adopted the sustainability framework in 2023, and there was a parking study done in 2022 for the downtown. Redevelopment has occurred. You're looking at the ACE project on that photo in the lower right corner of the screen there. That's by far the largest project that's occurred. During the initial phases of this project, there was a survey administered. It asked respondents what they thought about the current relevancy of the goals that were set by the 2015 plan. Most of them were found to still be relevant by survey respondents. Support was quite high for a public art program. Some of the big questions that we asked, we revisited these questions from the last survey. So the survey in 2015 asked people about 3 and 4 stories. There was some support for a third story in the CMD district, which is around the downtown. That was at about 70% in the survey. And then it was about half for a 4th story in the city center district. We, as a group, felt that it was not appropriate to recommend any 4th story in the city center district at this point due to the geographic constraints of the district. There was pretty strong support for reducing North Main to 2 travel lanes, a turning lane, and 2 parking lanes from 14 Mile north to the City Hall and Library area. We discussed that at this body back in the fall. 14 Mile was also a similar question about 14 Mile through the downtown. There were very strong feelings on both sides about this. It was pretty evenly matched as far as the survey results were concerned. And I'll get a little bit more into where the plan landed on that in a minute. Downtown assessment that was completed in 2015 was updated for this. We had added a new module for sustainability. Generally speaking, things that were working well in 2015 were found to be still working or were improved. Some items that were found to be wanting in 2015 had improved incrementally. Some had shown little change. In general, downtown had trended in the right direction. Major redevelopment projects had occurred. There was addition by subtraction with a couple of demolitions as well, with replacements on the way in the case of the Burger King. So one of the chapters of the plan is a public art framework. This is completely new to the downtown plan, and it is something that was a particular interest of the DDA. So it's one of the reasons that it's in here. This chapter explores the potential for a public art program, including some of the benefits it can bring to a downtown, and long-term, it might reach beyond the downtown. It may not necessarily always be a DDA thing. It might move out into the rest of the city at some point, but the downtown is a place where it could be explored and piloted and get a good system in place for it. So a couple of new objectives were, or a few new objectives were established related to that. And one of those is administrative. So how do we establish a sustainable and efficient public arts administration system? As I said, it might not always necessarily be constrained to the downtown. So how do you make that scalable as well? creating a cohesive, intentional network of public art installations that celebrate the city's identities and stories, boost local businesses, and stimulate economic development in specific areas, and then supporting the goals of the city's goals of sustainability and community resilience by integrating public art installations that encourage physical activity, environmental awareness, and community engagement along public spaces, sidewalks, and non-motorized routes. So those are the 3 new objectives that came along with that chapter. We partially carried forward the goals and objectives of the original plan with some modifications. Without reading them off the screen, I'll give you kind of the headline version. So a development-ready downtown, a mix of businesses to attract visitors from the region while also serving the needs of residents. Parking, making sure that we have enough of it, that it's convenient, that what we do have is locatable by people coming to the downtown. Placemaking, a sense of identity for downtown Clawson and the rest of the city. Excuse me. Historic preservation, vacant lots and buildings, finding some way to activate or create additional economic opportunity on those properties. That was a goal of the last plan, and it's proved elusive to get there, but we still want to work on that. And then age friendliness, so prioritizing accessibility, safety, and strong community connections downtown. Age friendliness does not only mean older residents, it also means the youngest residents as well. Downtown, of course, being very close to the school, main school campus of the city. So we looked at some things for parking. In a transit-poor environment, parking is, of course, at a premium. Downtown has some collective parking arrangements, and that's mixed in with private lots. Gaining what we can where we can is key to making downtown feel visitable by the average person. So the 2 road projects that we looked at both had a parking element to them. The 14-mile going to a diagonal arrangement when you reduce the lanes, and then North Main reducing the lanes and putting in parallel up and down North Main. Both have a downtown supporting parking element to them. And of course, North Main extends outside of the downtown area up to, the study area is up to City Hall library area. And of course, when you have events at the library, City Hall, and the school, that parking on North Main would be available for those as well. The 14-mile road and North Main projects are not only aimed at gaining additional parking, but they would be aimed at some other things as well. It happens that we have the right amount of space for it, but in addition to the parking, curb extensions could accommodate landscaping, stormwater facilities, and bike parking, lower travel speeds, which lead to increased safety and reduced noise and increased walkability. And then some of the challenges, of course, and this I'm talking specifically about 14 Mile here, possible backups with the current traffic volumes, particularly on West 14 Mile. Possible shift of through traffic to side streets, and we've got some content in the plan that attempts to address how we deal with that. Loss of some pass-through volume, possibly. Public support, very mixed on 14 Mile. There's some strong opposition and some strong support.
Is that why 14 is blocked off now? Is that just a test to see how it
That doesn't have anything to do with this, no.
I don't see any construction being done. I see a
That's the DPW's, it's not.
That's part of the miscellaneous concrete program we're working on right now. So Hartwell is going to be fixing a part of the road right there. So
Oh,
it's blocked
sealing
off.
cracks
Yeah,
and
so
that
it's
kind
completely unrelated for right now.
I thought it was maybe just a
No.
trial run to see how people like one lane.
What-
So far, it's not going well.
So one
Well,
of
it
the.
is a good test then, I guess.
One of the things, and after I'm done with this presentation, we're going to hear from the DDA itself. But one of the things I want to emphasize about both the 14-mile and North Main elements of this plan is that they're not calling for the permanent change of these roadways. They're calling for pilots to study whether or not that change is viable. So I want to emphasize that that's what's being called for in this plan. And we have to test it if we're going to do it.
So, Joe, where would the funding come for that then? Because this would be pretty pricey, right?
Well, to do a full permanent physical change, yes, that would ultimately have a significant cost associated with it. Pilot, to test whether or not it's viable, is a much more manageable set of costs. But I wanted to make that clear that this is not like a definitive, do it now, make it
Yeah,
permanent
it's going to take quite a while to get that.
thing, yeah.
It's like, I think Rylo came in front of council at their last meeting about Rochester Road tapering down.
Yes, yeah.
Probably taking them several years to get where they're at now.
And
But Joe, why do we need it to be, does it need to be in the master plan to pilot it, or wouldn't?
well, it helps, because if you're ultimately moving toward the possibility of doing that, I mean, if you don't have any kind of planning basis for it, then you're just sort of stabbing in the, I mean, you're just sort of doing it. I think it's best to have a planning basis behind what you're doing, so that you can put all your thoughts in order before you actually get down to the brass tacks of trying to pilot it. Among the things that are addressed here as far as the 14-mile road element of the plan is looking at these potential challenges, identifying, we talked about possible shift of through traffic to side streets, identifying which side streets those would be likely to be affected, and then how do you address that? So, during the pilot, you've got to be looking at those streets as well as the street that you're actually piloting. On the North Main side, and we've talked about this here before, there's a posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour from City Hall to the library and south to 14 Mile. The road design implies a much higher speed between the width of the lanes, the width of the road, the number of lanes. The choke down occurs right before the light at 14 Mile. So the idea is to move the choke down further north and change the flow of traffic in that portion of the corridor, which is essentially an extension of what's already happened south of 14 Mile. 14 Mile south of Main south of 14 Mile used to have 4 lanes going through it. Just like downtown Ferndale used to have 4 lanes of traffic running right through it on 9 Mile, back when it was half abandoned. These lane reductions also would be piloted with low-cost temporary measures to test the design and results, including any unintended consequences.
Joe, where does it say piloting though? Because I see implementing street reconfigurations. So that speaks more to me like action versus exploring.
Yeah, when you get down into the language, it talks about testing it and.
Is there somewhere that I can find where it says piloting?
I'm not sure that word was actually used, but I can help you locate the text and send you the specifics.
Okay.
We also did look at the parking lots that we have. there is limited space to make significant changes. We came up with some alternative configurations. This is the northwest lot that's kind of over by Leon and Lulu and Mojave. Squeezing a few more spaces out of them. It's difficult with the space that's available. But we did look at how much we'd be able to squeeze out of what we've currently got. What we found is that you can get a little bit more in the space that's currently public, but we might need to pursue some other strategies to really free things up. So downtown does have parking spaces to accommodate everyone. They're just not all in the right place or available to everyone. So finding some strategies to make more of them available to the public when they're not in use is one thing that we're looking at here. Promoting and publicizing what's available is another thing that we're looking at. Because a lot of people get in a pattern. You get used to going to a certain part of downtown. You know what parking is available there. You may not necessarily have awareness of what's available elsewhere in downtown. So finding ways to build that awareness can help spread the demand out a little bit. And then wayfinding is another part of that. Improving some of the signage to help people find it when they're visiting. And I'm not gonna go through these slides, but I am gonna cede the floor to Joan Horton, who is the DDA director right now. She's gonna say a few things about this, and then we can get into some discussion. Why is that? Okay, there we go.
Good evening. So we have been looking since our last master plan at ways to make the downtown more pedestrian-friendly, attract more people. We did the pedestrian and bike plan, which put pedestrian islands in, which was a good step to getting people. And we do have more people walking around. So in doing the survey and doing our master plan update, there were three things that were identified that we wanted to focus on. One was more public art. Everybody was in favor of that. Really no plan so much. It's a broad area, but we will be developing some sort of a plan to get people involved in that. The other question was building height. Most people were fine with staying at 3 stories and extending that out into the CMD district right around the downtown. That's fine. They weren't looking at going 4 stories. They weren't looking at going and doing another high rise. So keeping in character with the downtown. The other big thing was the 14-mile changes. We did hold an open house after our draft plan was done. The people that came were primarily younger residents who were interested in the survey results for the 14-mile changes because they were in favor of it. They like to be downtown. They want to cross the street safely with their young families. They want to sit on the patios and not have traffic going by at 45 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like a comfortable downtown. So that's the goal of this. So if you put it in the master plan, at least then it's there as a goal. And we do have a complete streets ordinance in this city. We did say that roads should be used for all users, all ages and abilities. So that's part of this. So looking at making changes on the road, it would start with trying it out. That can be done very simply with barricades, temporary type of bollards, paint, simply to try it out to see, would it work? How would it affect traffic? How does it affect side streets? And do a study for a while to see if it's something that we should look into further. So this isn't a done deal. This is, here's our goal, is to make it more pedestrian friendly, make it a small downtown where people want to be. How do we do that? This is one way where we try it out. we've been working with SEMCOG on this for a few years now. They actually just got a grant from the feds to do pilot programs. So I'm waiting for them to get their application processes in, because we want to be one of those first people turning in that application. If we can get help from them to set up this pilot, way better. So that's kind of where we stand now. We have, the DDA did vote to hire Giffords to help us with an implementation plan for the trial period. We need education. We need people to know what this is about, that this isn't something we're foisting on people. It's something that we're trying out to see if it works, if everybody's going to like it, because there are a lot of moving parts here. So pedestrian friendly, safety, two big things. Another side effect is if we could get a lane in either way, one lane in each direction, turn lane in the center, which is proven to be a safer road because people aren't jockeying for position. When you got two lanes going in one direction, you're always trying to get in front of the next guy to see if you can get cut in and get there a little faster and beat the light. So these types of roads are actually safer. They move traffic more efficiently, and the federal government's done studies on that. That's absolutely true. So that's one matter. But if we had a lane reduction and we could use that room for more on-street parking, if we could get if our road moves a little slower and we could get angle parking in, like downtown Clawson used to have at one time, we could pretty much double our parking capacity. That's huge. As Joe said, when we look at our parking lots, we're not going to pick up maybe 5, 6 parking spaces here or there, but we're not going to get the kind of parking that we need to get the people here that we want to come in and visit. So for pedestrian safety, for economic growth, and traffic safety, this is the reason why we're going forward with this and trying it out. Again, not a done deal. It's try it out, see if this is something that can work for us. So that's where we are. And again, the parking is huge. So it would slow the traffic down, and it would give us, because we are at a point now, we cannot develop anymore without parking. So we're at a total standstill on some properties that want to be developed, but we don't have any kind of parking capacity, and we can't pull it out of anywhere. And we have looked at, what about a parking structure right here? Oh, yeah, that's great. They're way expensive. I think Jeff Margulis is here, and he can probably tell us per space what those cost. Looking at where we could put it, the kind of, the space it takes up just for the structure itself, you lose parking, and then you've just got to go up. And for the parking that we would get for the cost, it really doesn't work out. And then I don't care where we put it. In the northwest lot was the only place where it looked like we could even kind of fit one in. But overall, people don't really like parking structures. They don't really feel safe in one at night. And if we put one there, I guarantee that the other south side, southeast corner is going to say, how come we don't have one? So on-street parking is really something that is going to fit our community better. So it's kind of where we are. Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we had on-street back in the 50s and 60s, angled parking,
Yes.
which accommodated a lot more cars.
Absolutely.
And if you attend our Lions Car Show, which is coming up August 10th,
Right.
we park over 400 cars, but they're all angled parked down there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's
And
feasible,
if
to get
you-
the spots.
And if there's a lane reduction, the traffic's going to go slower.
Yep.
Right now, you can put up a sign that says 25 miles an hour, but it isn't going to make any difference, because if it looks like a 45-mile-an-hour road, that's what people do. So making the road look like you need to go slower on it And adding that parking is going to be another way where we slow more people down. So, anything else?
Just got a quick question. That dashed lane, did you mention a bike lane? Is that what that is?
We don't
Yeah,
really have
turn lane?
room for a bike
Okay.
lane. We've looked at that, and
Yeah.
there's just not room for it. I think when we looked at it a few years back, there was room on one side of the road to get the bike lane. What do you do with the guys going in the other direction, you know?
So that's a turning lane at the intersection, but then it's like,
I can't see
it's
what you're
the
looking
dash
at,
line, the
so.
dashed line in the middle. It's like a
The dash line in the middle was just gonna be the turn lane,
turn, okay.
the center lane, so that,
I thought I heard something about islands or,
we have islands now.
okay.
Yeah,
So
we're not
yet,
looking
yeah.
at, ideally, at some point in the future, we'd like to add another one on West 14 Mile, which was originally in our plan, so like across from Mojave, across from that empty lot, so that you had every so many feet, you had island, island, intersection, island, island, so it broke it up evenly.
Okay.
I haven't noticed, but I noticed on Facebook, somebody mentioned that all the grasses were cut down.
They
on the
were,
islands.
Nick's looking into that.
Didn't we have some, like, tall
They were-
fescue special grasses?
They
or-
were all Michigan native plants that we had a sustainability grant for from Oakland County.
To get too tall, or?
I can't answer that. I don't know what happened. I received the picture just shortly before it went on Facebook.
Yeah, it's disappointing. We have dirt there. Let's plant something in it if we can.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yep. And I think I have a couple other board members that are here too that would like to speak about that.
Sure.
I have a few questions. I was trying to make sure everybody had a chance to talk. First, with the study on CMD district, I'm curious, because a lot of CMD is backed right up to residential. That's kind of like, a lot of it faces homes, especially the south side, southeast and northwest. Was CMD like put on a map and asked people in that question, or was it just given as a question
I
of
think
like
that's probably a
CMD?
Joe question.
Oh,
Yeah, it didn't actually say CMD district in the question. It showed the CMD district on a map and said in these areas.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then, I mean, look, I love West Michigan. They all have the parallel parking, the lanes that go down to, 2 lanes. It's great for downtown. I've voiced many concerns about too much of that. And, I live on Elmwood, and I see people thinking you can go 45 down Elmwood and cutting around. Just today when they were doing the patching, someone just flew during school drop-offs. So there's gotta be, we of course want downtown to flourish, but we've gotta have countermeasures, because almost all of our streets are like through streets. Elmwood's especially vulnerable, I knew when I bought there, but of course I don't want that to,
Again,
to get worse.
this is why the pilot, because traffic would be studied on other streets.
Yeah, and we want pedestrians safe, but we also want our children in our neighborhoods and our backyards and our
think
front
that-
yards safe.
I think that goes without saying, yes.
Yeah, well, it does have an effect. That goes
And again,
almost without saying.
again, it would be something that would be looked at. It would be the reason for the pilot, was to have that chance to monitor all of those things.
So and you probably can't answer what type of monitoring that is, though. Do you get anecdotal with talking to residents, or does it just
You had something here?
have a counter that counts cars?
I think you'd want 2 forms of objective data. One is that you would want speed data, and another is that you would want volume data. So you want to know, okay, what happens on these roads when the change is made to 14 Mile? Does the volume go up? Does the volume stay constant? Do the speeds go up? Do the speeds stay constant? So once you have that information, and I think what you do is for the first half of the pilot, you gather that information, and then for the second half of the pilot, if you're finding that there are problems, you implement temporary mitigation measures. So bulbing curbs or whatever it is that we want to do on those streets to try to manage some of those problems. Maybe if there is a volume increase, can we Can we send that volume somewhere else, like perhaps to another mile road, by implementing, more stop signs or obstacles to free movement on those roads? Or if you have a speed increase problem, then there are all the traffic calming measures that we discussed in the broader master plan that you can draw from to attempt to manage that situation. So you get to kind of test two things there while you're monitoring these other roads for any spillover effects. And one of the great things about that is that, let's say, a few years ago, Royal Oak did a road diet on North Main between 11 Mile and Garland/Catalpa. And they decided it didn't work for them, so they went back to their original configuration. Let's say that happens with 14 Mile. Let's say we test it, we're not happy with the results, we go back to the current configuration. You can still have the implementation measures on the side streets that are affected during the pilot, and you can make those permanent over time if you find that they actually do help fix problems that are currently occurring on those roads. Because we know that there are problems on some of these roads already.
Yeah.
Well, let's take this opportunity to fix them regardless of what happens with 14
Well,
Mile.
of course, that sounds lovely. Especially, there's a place where you pull off 696 in Royal Oak, and there is a natural way to go straight, but I assume that there's too much traffic. They've put the one-way.
Sure, yeah.
And it seems to be effective there. I don't live there, but
Right.
I wouldn't dare turn into the neighborhood, right? So I think there are measures. I'm just worried,
Absolutely.
with the pilot, let's say they bring it up to Elmwood, are they going to test Elmwood, or are they going to test Elmwood and Phillips, because Phillips can also, be a thoroughfare as well. Do you know how far they test?
I mean, I think you have to look at the streets and what realistically is going to be a target for cut through, and then you have to monitor the streets that are realistically going to be targets for cut throughs. So you have to, that's why I mentioned Lincoln, right? Because it goes all the way through from Rochester to Maine. So if you want to go around eastern downtown, that's where you shift to go
Yeah.
around it, right? There's no stop signs on it right now. That's a place where I think we need to do something no matter what happens.
Well, and Elmwood is that, because you can
and
go all
Elmwood
the
is a
way
half
from
mile.
Meyer to, which is
Exactly.
very convenient.
And it has a light at Main Street and
Yeah.
a light on Crooks. It doesn't have a light on Rochester, but
It should.
Which it should. Yeah, because my kid does violin lessons at McCourt's there, and we don't go the Rochester way because there's no light there.
Yeah.
But
There's kind of two portions of this too, Joe. It's
Yeah.
Main Street and 14 Mile. The DDA is looking at 14.
the DDA
14 is
the
the
DDA
main.
is looking at 14 Mile. Main Street is a separate thing that would be a city.
Which I feel like, well, and maybe I'm ignorant too, I don't live there, but there's a less, 14 to 13 Mile, I guess I don't know what streets, but I'm sure there's a lot of thoroughfares there as well.
There's really not many that go straight through. In fact,
No.
there aren't any that go straight through. Every one of them has at least one jog somewhere. We've been looking at this. And the ones that are closest to 14 Mile really don't go through. They're very chopped up. So determining what streets are the most likely shift there is a little trickier, partly because there isn't really a likely shift, because there's just nothing that goes straight through. I mean, you might go all the way down to Normandy for that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is a good ad. I know that there's going to be voices on both sides, very polarizing, but until we actually do test it, we're not going to have any real data to look at.
Right.
So, I mean, I applaud you guys just including this in the master plan, so it's something you can track against and actually have an implementation against. So, I'm one of those people, I always walk my daughter at 7, 8 in the morning, and I've gotten almost hit many times by people turning left or turning right downtown at 14. I also live right off of Lincoln, so I know that there's traffic concerns as you do think about reducing lanes, people will find other ways. But there's a portion of people that will need to get where they need to be closer to downtown and continue to travel that way. There's also a portion that use it to just to get to where they're going, from 696 all the way to Birmingham. I don't know what it is, you know.
Right.
There's always examples of people, so they find a way of least resistance, which means they'll find hopefully other roads that if we have implementation measures on, you know, cut throughs, then they'll go up to 15 or down to 12, whatever it is, you know.
Right.
I'm just hopeful that this is something that we can really, you know, advise everyone on what we're trying to do, but also take that feedback, because I know that there's opposing voices, so I don't want to push those
Right.
down at all. But I think that until we have actual information, that we really are just saying in, you know, pie in the sky, don't worry, it won't affect you. Well, now we'll
No,
have a
that's
way
what
to
we've
say
hired-
that.
That's what we've hired Giffords
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do, is to.
There's going to be another
It's
round of public
education.
input, yeah.
Yeah.
Education's gonna be a big part of it, starting out, letting people know what they're, and getting their input. There will be more surveys. We'll be at festivals, at Clausen Fest, at giving information out to let people know, this is what we're looking at. So again, not a done deal. We're trying it out. We want to see if it'll work, if this is something that works for us. If they can do this on Woodward, certainly we can consider doing a road diet in Clausen.
Do you know if there are grants out for this type of, I know you said for the pilot, but if we say there are grants to help with that, with a DDA
There might be,
portion?
there are transportation enhancement grants.
Okay.
So there could be something there. We'd certainly be looking for that.
Yeah, do you know if those ever include like mitigation strategies, like Joe was talking about? Because of course, it would be nice to back it up with, hey, with this, we're gonna also include this many, you can't do it proportionately. Like for every road we close, we're gonna include 4 mitigations. But like, does it also include the opportunity to have
Not that I'm aware
mitigation?
of. I
Okay.
think when I've looked at these applications before, you give them safety, pedestrian safety, economic benefits to the area. The mitigation, the other things would be something that probably the city would have to look at, I'm guessing.
Okay, thanks. And you're just looking for feedback today. We're not voting today on anything like that,
No,
right?
this needs a public hearing to be voted on by the planning commission.
Okay.
So just like a regular master plan. That's something that I was going to talk about tonight anyway, so I guess I'll talk about it now, which is that the planning commission will need to hold a public hearing on this, and then council, which has exercised its right to approve master plans in the city, will also need to make an adoption motion on this. So the planning commission should discuss tonight whether or not it would like to set a public hearing on this, potentially with feedback and and requested, whatever in the draft. Or if it wants to send some correspondence back to the DDA. I mean, those are kind of the two options. So that's kind of the outcome of this meeting, is are we sending some correspondence to the DDA, or are we setting a public hearing? And that public hearing, just like with the site plan, could be potentially a conditional motion where you're saying, we'd like to set a public hearing, but we want you to do this, and we can tweak the draft accordingly.
So, I don't want to keep, whoever wants to answer questions. I did notice in the draft and in the previous one, you talked about utilizing like vacant property. I know I've heard you on DDA talk about having better ordinances to initiate stuff with those vacant properties. Is that, we didn't go too far into that. Why are you laughing, Joe?
We've been pushing on this for a long time.
Yeah, well, and you have our full support there, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of opportunities for the city to maybe even lease, or I don't know. Is there talks specifically about what we can do to by way of ordinance, because, right, these things will work through us as ordinance to utilize that Pizza Hut spot and maybe bring up that old tile, and I think that might be a tripping hazard, I don't know. Or create actual green spaces is there a mechanism to require, like, some trees be put in on big empty lots, or?
We don't have anything at this time.
You
No,
don't?
no, and there isn't anything that we can tell property owners what they're gonna do with their personal property that they
There's-
own.
They have to maintain it, but that's as far
Yes.
as our
Yeah.
control.
Yes.
So you can't have them remove the tile from Pizza Hut?
Not at this time. That is, actually, they did remove the tile.
Oh, did they?
It's
They did
gone
remove
now,
the
yeah.
tile. It's just the concrete surface there.
Okay, and that doesn't have to be upkept to a certain blade standard of cracks or anything? It's,
That's something that we've been working with the property owner and the city on.
yeah.
It's taken a while, but yes.
There-
It's something we're aware of.
So Jill and I have been just kind of researching recently some strategies for dealing with vacant properties, and we're going to be trying to report on that to the DDA soon. Because we haven't gotten traction on an ordinance for that. So we want to look at some. There are, I guess, a few different ways to get things to happen. One is incentives. Another is, well, we talked about carrots. Let's just say sticks. And the sticks are somewhat limited because you're dealing with private property, but we have some things that we can lean on. Blight in particular is one, but not all vacant properties are necessarily blighted, but they don't contribute when they're just.
well, and also,
Thank you.
I remember seeing this with Burger King, right? Like, we don't know unless maybe somebody does go in there, but as far as I know, we don't have any type of yearly or any type of inspection that goes in there to make sure there's not rodents inside the building.
There were
Gone.
rodents in Burger King.
I know Burger King's gone, thank you. I'm referring back to when we had this conversation, but there are.
We don't
current-
have a vacant building ordinance, which, yes, we've talked about, and we've asked the city about that. Yes, where you can go in and inspect a vacant building.
To ensure that
For a
there's.
fee, to ensure that it's safe, that there
Yeah.
aren't rodents there. Yes, there are such things, and that's something I believe the city's gonna be looking at. We've been asking for a while. But we're on the master plan right now. Is there anything?
Well, that is in your master plan, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, it is in the master plan, and we.
Yeah,
we
so I
want
was just
to
wondering
keep-
how that might be implemented,
Yeah.
was my question. Thank you.
It's kind of a city thing that we can just keep asking for.
Thanks, Joe. Do your backup guys have anything to say here?
I think they wanted to talk about the importance to business for this and that there is support. Yeah, so I'll let them speak.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Charles Sampson, owner of Whiskey Taco Foxtrot and Downtown Charlie's. Just want to speak about the kind of the parking situation in general in the downtown. One of the things that I kind of noticed, so Jefferson, that is running right alongside of Gus Snug and then Whiskey Taco. On a Friday, Saturday, that street's pretty much filling up completely. I've done a couple counts walking the streets when I have to park and do deliveries at the very end of it. We're getting anywhere from 40 to 50 cars parking on that street. Doing this road diet, doing this little check to see if this is something that could work and feasibly, slow down traffic, give us potentially, I think they said it was 51 spaces for the 14 mile. And I know there's been discussions about a road diet as well on Main Street, and that would also give us around, and I think another 30, so pretty much 80 some spaces extra for the downtown, which would allow to help, kind of grow the area. That being said, we kind of look around and again, talking with vacant buildings and whatnot, we have a lot of businesses that are not occupied. And then what does it look like when those businesses are occupied? What does the parking situation look like? What does the traffic situation in the downtown look like? So these are things that we need to kind of look at as we develop and grow as a city. I'm born and raised in Clawson, kind of grew up, seen it changed. watched, Black Lotus come in and do all the amazing things and kind of like pave the way for the kind of big restaurant scene that we have nowadays. And that's growing. We have Pandemonium coming in the near future. I know there's talks about all these other developments that are coming. We have a thriving social district. People are utilizing it. People are starting to come to hang out in the downtown. We saw kind of what 1998 when Ferndale did the road diet on 9 Mile, kind of a vacant city almost, like it was kind of on that downturn. And now, you look at Ferndale was thriving. They have events all the time. We're kind of heading in that direction. And I think it's a really good benefit to try these things, see if they work. It could clog up, and I hate traffic as much as the next person. So, but we try it. We see what issues we come into. We look at the options that might be sustainable for a longer period of time. I support it fully as a business owner. I know I've talked to a lot of the other business owners that are behind it as well. Mainly just on that sense of parking. It's you drive around, and if you know Clawson, you can park over behind the building, go here, go here. If you don't know Clawson, you're coming from Royal Oak, you go into a parking lot, it's full. Maybe you're not going to the Gus Nug tonight. Maybe you're not going to Whiskey Taco tonight. You're going somewhere else. We lose business. We lose, customers. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Margolis. I'm a commercial property owner downtown Ace Development. Yeah, I, could have brought quite a few letters of support from our tenants and people that we speak with around the neighborhood. The parking, safety, traffic issues all together, I think, indicate that this would, more than benefit the city. I think that, getting traffic slowed down a little bit is critical. I think it's, I stand in front of our building a good portion of the day, or in our retail spaces and see, cars whizzing by and people nearly getting, making it across the street. People pulling into the parallel spots and then going and getting the driver's side door with cars going 45 miles an hour past them, I think is a huge safety concern that could be helped by slowing it down, getting angled parking spots so you're not at risk, getting in your car. And then, I think that the parking is getting worse pretty quickly. Our lot, people always parked at Ace and walked to Noble and walked to other businesses. But, with the Grand River Brewery and Noble getting bigger and attracting more people, and having more employees, so I know the city lot behind them is largely taken up by employees. It's just, it's frustrating for our tenants, especially Ace, because, Jeff at Ace will call me and say the parking lot's full, and I have one person in the store, and there's nobody else in any of the other, there's not really anybody else in the other business, so it's completely full with, our private lot is completely full with people going to other downtown businesses. And, we might have to police that at some point, so that people, so that our tenants, have use of our parking lot. And that's without having the local, which is the bar getting ready to open in a few weeks. So with that situation, you have a bunch of storefronts that are zoned for restaurants to freely come in and other high, potentially high occupancy big businesses. You know, I am hearing of several restaurants getting ready to, you know, that have either signed leases or not, that, you know, could be coming downtown soon, and I can't imagine where the people are going to park. So with generating that additional on-street parking is, you know, critical for some, you know, a lot of the businesses, maybe, you know, cumulatively in total, to be able to survive. If you know, if you know, as of now, it's difficult to find parking. You know, if downtown does want and continue to have businesses open up, that the parking would be needed for them to survive. So those,
You're at Ace?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed signs there recently, and I have to say, I've gone to Water to Go so many times where I need to get all my 5-gallon jugs, and there's nowhere to park in front of Water to Go. So there is a frustration there for sure. And no matter how many times they put up a Water to Go only, I'm sure you've witnessed it. People are gonna park there and go to Noble Fish or wherever they're going. So have you talked about, and sorry, I thought of this while you were talking, on the on-street parking spots, would you guys limit those to like a half hour so that there are moving turnovers, or?
I think that is important to have. I'm in favor of
Like a time limit? I don't necessarily mean a half an hour,
an
but.
hour,
Yeah.
or an hour, 2 max. I am strongly in favor of that. I know people freak out at the mention of paid parking, and I'm not in favor of that. But that maybe it makes sense to have, you know, paid parking only on 14 Mile or on the main roads, and then free parking behind.
Right.
I mean, that's still.
It at least is you would think, another layer of self-regulating time
Right.
limits on there, like your time limit is an
Right.
hour and pay for it. And maybe that pays for our mitigations.
And there's
Who knows?
certain things that, yeah, it would help pay for mitigations. It would help pay for, you know, some of the measures that would be desired in that type of implementation. And, you know, I don't want to speak out of school. I don't have the full scope of work on what a finished road diet would look like, but I think that, you know, it sounded, Joe, did we discuss that there may be some, you know, less expensive options of accomplishing even a permanent road diet? Yeah. So, you know, I'm not saying, I'm still saying pilot is the way to go for however long we think. But I think that, you know, in the meantime, we could look at, potential options on a scope of work for a full road diet and gauge whether that, what the financial feasibility of that is. And Mr. Casera, you had mentioned or asked if that lane closure on 14 Mile had anything to do with this. And it made me think, because I drive that way multiple times a day. And it doesn't seem to me that it, creates any backups that I've seen. So that's just some anecdotal, but.
Well, I've seen westbound when about 3:30, 4 o'clock or so, when people start moving, it backs up probably 4 blocks, bumper to bumper, to make it through the light. So it's slowing it down quite a bit at that point.
Well, the lane closure is eastbound, right?
Right.
So,
They're all the way back to like Nick's Country Kitchen lined up there.
okay.
Everybody's starting to get over
Maybe I
one
haven't been
lane.
there. I see, east 14 Mile during rush hour,
I thought
I
it
guess.
was just going to be a test to see if people put up with it, but so far they don't seem to like it.
So is your idea to do like 14 Mile, see how that goes before we do a pilot on Main Street, or are we piloting all at once? Because obviously I do think one will have an effect on the other. Or maybe you're not the person to ask. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah, most likely the pilots are not going to happen at the same time. I think it's possible, but that's going to require some coordination if it's going to happen.
Okay. If they did happen at the same time, they'd give us a realistic.
Oh, it certainly would.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to, if ultimately one might happen and one might not, so.
Right.
So you sort of want to see them separately too, but.
For sure.
But yeah, together, I guess it would be kind of interesting to see what the overall effect was.
Yeah, I'm sure that could be.
Yeah, if you had to
Is that
design, if you had to design a pilot, and you assume that Main Street is the one that might be more acceptable to the public, I would start with that, run it for a couple of weeks, and then do 14 in conjunction, and then take Main Street off, so you kind of have a portion where you're running each test individually and at the same time. Probably the best structure if you had to do it.
Is it an EV charging station you have in your lot?
Yeah, we have one in like the retail parking and then 4 in the residential parking.
Up and running, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's available to anybody?
Sure.
In the lot?
Yep.
Cool. I mean, I see it used almost every time I've gone to get sushi or something.
You see it?
Used,
Oh, good.
like utilized, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not all that often I see it. I see people parking and not using it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, I had a question. This is maybe a little bit more detailed than we need to get into here, and I'm assuming we'd work it out later, but you have to take a baseline when you do these studies, right? So would the baseline last the same length of time as the study would? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, ideally it does. SEMCOG already has the baselines for the main roads. And it would be side roads that we'd have to get baselines
I mean, those
for.
change though, right?
Yeah, I was going to
Depending
ask how old those were. Some cogs
Sure.
is old.
Yeah, SEMCOG, I don't know exactly how old they are, but SEMCOG does it almost every year. So,
I just think, we need to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples all the time, right?
Sure.
So like, if they have a study that they did, right, a baseline that they did at a certain time of year in 2023, maybe we should do our study in 2024 at that exact same time. That way we, have a better,
Summer traffic or something.
yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, you don't want to compare mid-August traffic to September
Exactly.
traffic after school started. Yeah, that's understood, yeah.
I just had one question on the action item table. So.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that, obviously, my limited time, a couple of years here working on this body, but I appreciate that this isn't just a wish list, right? There's action items behind it, ways to track it. I know we talked about last time, changing the bylaws to make sure we have annual reviews of these master plans. So I think that's really important. I think there's a sentence somewhere within the DDA's master plan as well to do an annual review. Can you just tell me a little bit about the action item table? It looks like we are going to help fill that out. So is that something that's done after this is adopted, or any kind of explanation would be helpful? Just on how that portion works?
It's often done after the adoption as a kind of a work item, so that you're not just adopting a master plan and then leaving it behind.
Right.
But yeah, actually doing that priority.
So it's intentionally left blank
Right, yeah.
until it's adopted, and then it'll be
And then
filled
it's-
out in conjunction with this body.
Exactly, it's meant
Okay.
to be a worksheet, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Complete your presentation?
Yes.
Should we schedule a public meeting for this?
I think that was their ask if we want to.
Yep.
Next regularly scheduled meeting?
Is that preferred, Joe, that it would be at our next meeting then? Or do you guys?
Notification timeline?
Yeah, we need to.
Yes, we could do that on the 13th. That would actually work.
You said the 14th, August 14th?
August 13th.
August 13th.
Yeah.
Sorry, the rain's Hard to hear anyone. Okay. I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for the DDA's master plan presentation, right, or review?
DD's master plan update.
Update for August 13th, 2024.
Support.
Motion, support.
Go flip.
Have roll call, please.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes.
Mr. Tinlin?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Colbert?
Yes.
Mr. Cusero?
Yes.
Ms. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything under planners report?
Nothing further.
Nothing under planning. How about staff report and training opportunities?
Just one big thing I wanted to touch on is during the last council meeting, they scheduled the joint workshop to discuss short-term rentals for August 7th, which is the Wednesday after the primary election. So right now, we're still planning on having it on that date, but we've been talking internally on how we prepare the items, and Giffords Webster isn't available for that meeting date, and they're very important in that discussion, talking about the ordinance itself and then zoning related. So we're still trying to manufacture how we want to approach this, if we still want to have that on August 7th, or if we want to potentially reschedule, make sure Giffords can be there. But at this present time, that is when that meeting is supposed to be.
Do you know, will that happen by motion through city council, or do we?
It did already, didn't it?
It did already.
Well, the amended date.
So I don't know for sure right now. That is technically the next board meeting between either body of the council and planning commission. So we're just trying to figure out how to go about doing that. And that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
What
So-
would be an alternate date that Giffords could be there?
I don't have their calendars.
We have a bunch.
I just was wondering if that had been discussed, right? So,
And it wasn't necessarily discussed at that time with everyone else's availability. And so if we come to that, we'll make sure we have their calendars aligned with potential dates to do this for everyone. So we're just trying to figure out how, if they're not available for that date, if it's maybe almost a two-part series where feedback is gathered and then come back for a second time after they have a chance to review the meeting. So it's a little bit up in the air, but it is scheduled for that date right now.
is there any reason it couldn't be the 8th, for example? I mean,
They're not going to have a city council meeting before then, though, to propose that.
So it is subject to change, and once I have a better idea of what's going to happen, I'll send all of you an email with what's going to be on the agenda and when that'll be, if it does change.
Decision going to be this week, Nick, or?
I don't want to say yes and have the answer be no, but I would imagine we want to have more than a week in advance
Yeah.
to let everyone know.
And the
Nick, do you?
time- oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, what the time for it, if it's going to occur on the 7th, just for our schedules?
I'm gonna have to double check the meeting minutes. It's either at 7:30, the original time, or they did bump it up to 7.
Yeah, I tried to go back, but I guess that council video is not available on YouTube right now.
We've had some issues with that meeting date. I spoke to Merge Live, and it sounds like that the big outage, that is the only thing that has impacted any IT related. So I think we got off scot-free, that's the only item. But we do have the recording of the meeting, and we're working on uploading it back to the website.
That was my exact question.
So yes, I was trying to review some minutes from that meeting. I couldn't even view the video either, so we're trying to get that taken care of as soon as possible.
So you'll update us on proposed time, or the time for August 7th, and then another update if a date changes, or?
Yeah, by
okay.
the end of this week, you'll hear from me in some capacity, whether, what ends up happening, but by the end of this week, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then specifically, I didn't really have anything to call out from the packet, unless anyone else has any questions.
Well, I have a question. How long, because I've noticed that some of the ordinances that we put forward, they've, you say will go to council. What is the rationale behind like when they are presented? And I'm wondering, as a body, if we should put forth dates on them, just so that we have a way of checking those boxes and making sure they're put forth by a certain date,
Yeah. So the meeting that those two were approved, I was out of the office, and then the agenda was compiled that week, so we didn't have the chance to get it on that first agenda. And usually that's not the quick turnaround. And literally 10 minutes ago, I sent Joe an email trying to figure out when he's available to go to a council meeting. I think
okay.
we're probably going to end up doing the second August council meeting, that those will go in front of them.
Oh, okay.
So the turnaround is ideally the next council meeting, but as if Joe's schedule doesn't align, I know he works in probably more than 5 communities, so we want him available for that.
Sure,
So,
okay, that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the holdup there. There's nothing else.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
And during the short-term rental meeting that we're going to have together, I would assume we would be, can someone look into police reports, if there's been any police activity on the rental sites that we have now? Can we have a list of how many sites we actually have that are licensed and inspected?
Yeah, we're gonna have all of that, and that not just police calls, we'll have general ordinance, potential violations, if there are any, included in whatever we discuss.
The more information, the better. It's like, I kind of felt sandbagged tonight that we didn't get a copy of the note from our fire department that there's a problem. If something like that comes up, I guess all I can do is tell the residents out there that if a resident has a problem, send an email to us on planning and let us know about it, because had that couple not come in here tonight, I wouldn't have known there was any difficulty with it.
So I've discussed this with John Rufenbecker, fire marshal, and he's the person that engaged with the resident that spoke earlier. And he didn't feel there was anything at this point to put in writing for you, but I'll have a conversation with him tomorrow morning and see if he's willing to either attend or put something else in writing for that next meeting.
I'd like to have all the cards on the table before we start playing the game here.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be good. That's, I was going to say, same thing with the discussion on short-term rentals. If there's been complaints from the residents that weren't necessarily ordinance violations, but yet you've received complaints,
Right.
I think we should have those, so we know that there's complaints going on.
Yeah,
Right.
and there's not always a correlation between the police department and the code enforcement and the mechanisms that, which is part of the reason why we wanted this, right, is that there's not a clear line of communication to get back to us, but, yeah.
Well, Nick, your code ordinance service tickets, you should be able to generate a report for that, right? Because you have all the service tickets going to the different departments.
Correct. The problem is that the police obviously use their own operating
Yep,
system,
yep.
and the building department has their own, which is where code operates out of, but we'll pull reports from both. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No legal update tonight, because as usual, we have no lawyer. Before we go for adjournment, does anyone else have any topic that they want to discuss? Or
I have a couple questions, Joe, or Nick, whoever. In terms of Shalom, there's been a lot going on with Shalom. Do we have a timeline of when they might be coming in front of, I know they're doing a lot of demo. Is that, that's the actual school doing the demo though, right?
That's correct, and
Yeah.
I meant to mention that during my meeting, so thank you for bringing that up. So, both sites currently have separate developers for who's doing them. I believe the Shalom site is a little farther along in the process to have plans. So we've had a couple of pre-application meetings with them, with our development team. And so they have a draft plan that they're wanting to move forward with. And they're going to be scheduling some type of open house meeting and invite the public to attend on what they're proposing for the site. They said they're aiming to have that in the middle of August at, I believe they said the high school, kind of depending on where the current construction is there. If not, it'll be at another publicly available site. And so the homeowners within a certain radius, I can't remember exactly what they said, what they used to send notices out, those homeowners will get a response, and then we, as the city, will also post on social media when that'll be.
Like with that, is there a way to hold certain town halls as a city because this is going to be one of the major changes that happen in Clawson. Obviously, there's a lot of people inquiring about it. Is there a mechanism for some type of town hall, or does that come later on? I don't want to be accused of, picking one developer from another, but it is, a big development that's happening.
Absolutely, it's probably the biggest we'll have
Yeah.
in the last few years and probably for a long time. And so specific town halls, it's kind of remained to be seen how the development moves forward. Based on what I think they're going to end up doing, there's certainly going to be at least one public hearing component, and whether we separate that out into a additional workshop, a joint meeting of some way, just to have everyone available and they're aware what's going on. But yeah, public feedback is going to be big for this development.
Okay, well, because I've heard that it's going to come through as a PUD, which we've had PUDs. But if it's coming through as something different, like the lot splits and I think it would be helpful for us as a commission to maybe go through, not specific to that site, but just specific to what we're looking at in those criteria, if it's something we've not been presented with. I don't know if it's what do you call it, condo development?
Site condominium?
Yeah, if
Yeah.
it's one of those, but we've never explored it, at least I haven't, and I've been here, 5 years. It would be helpful to just get an idea of what it is that process is and maybe what our ordinance might look like so
Yeah.
that we're well informed.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. We can talk with Giffords and our engineers to see how, I know AW's done a lot of projects in other communities that are site condominiums, and maybe we can have a training in the next few meetings before we get any concrete plans, because right now their plans are subject to change. We can definitely look into having that as part of
Okay.
a planning commission meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And lastly, why does DDA get to go to Clausen Fest, but we're not there, guys? We should probably be getting out with our master plan. I like that they're going to be there. I think it'd be a great way, maybe, just putting it out there. If we can find ways to engage the community with our master plan, I would love to do that. I don't know if that's something anybody else is open to, if it's something we have to motion for, but I definitely think we should be out there and maybe by DDA so we can show how we work somewhat together and have a, cohesive city, right?
Cohesive master plan, right?
Yeah, well, we work, one works with another, and it'd be great to kind of piggyback off of that momentum a little bit, if anybody's open to it.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah? Cool. I plan on being around for Clausen Fest, so I would love, how do we go about doing that?
So I'm gonna have Joe chime in a moment. So I believe our next meeting is August 13th, and the Clausen Fest is what date again? I'm
The
sorry.
20
24th? 24th. So at that next meeting on the 13th, I believe Joe is prepared to present the master plan like he did tonight for DDAs. And then with that, I think they're gonna have some renderings and stuff on poster board, et cetera. So I think it'd be appropriate to bring those to the Clausen Fest if there's a space for us. I know that they had registration for tables close a while ago. So that'd have to be a discussion with the Clausen Fest board, but.
Is that something that because I know we have to work as a united front, is that something one of us could reach out to them on, or is that something we have to motion you guys to do?
I don't think a motion would be necessary. I think a few of you would probably just want to volunteer to be there for a certain amount of time and can discuss with the Clausen Fest team, offline on how that may work.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one other, maybe for Joe. We had talked last week about getting language for annual reviews included in the bylaws. So something. Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure it's still on the agenda for next time. Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing, Josh, you just reminded me. Is there a way that we can have public comment for items on the agenda as well? Or is that like in our bylaws that, because we oftentimes find ourselves just opening it up, kind of?
I can open public anytime, but I wasn't aware that that's what.
Oh, I know, but I was just wondering if it could be a standard, because there's a lot of times that we find ourselves questioning the people, like, do you want to talk? Where it kind of puts them on the spot too. Does that have to happen, our agenda by way of bylaws? Or is that something we can amend
I
to?
think councils reads both ways. First,
It does.
you can talk about things that are on the agenda, and then later on you can talk about things that are not on the agenda. So
Is that something we can implement?
I'm going to defer to Nick on that one. 'cause
So
I'm
the
not-
the bylaws currently has like a mock-up of what the,
I
I'm
thought
just,
so.
okay, I'm sure you know, so that's what we follow. So if that was to change, it'd have to change in the bylaws. I do know that with, the way that some site plans come, that a public hearing isn't always required for a right to build on private property if they're meeting all the ordinances, so we'd have to probably look into that a little bit more,
But it's not a public hearing, it's just public comment.
yes, I think there's a little bit of discussion on how both of those look. So it's something we can discuss further with the other bylaw discussion when that comes in front of you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and support. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tinlin?
Yes.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. Colbert? Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
One?
Just waiting for some.
Yeah. I want to keep going. He's back here. Just waiting for the rain to die off, man.
Yeah, well, there's